6,000. And the series of directives to the ICE agents and the officers known as prosecutorial discretion and the implementation of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals programs have made certain broad categories for illegal aliens where these people are off limits for enforcement. It's making these illegals like they're ambassadors. You can't touch them. It doesn't matter if they hit somebody with a car and kill them. They're off limits. You can't touch them because Obama needs a Hispanic community to vote for Democrats. They are protected. You hit somebody with your car, you murder somebody, see how fast he lets you out. But if you're a criminal, if you're here illegally and you're a criminal, then you get the get out of jail free card. Obama is out to destroy America by whatever means, racist, criminal, whatever means necessary. He will do what he can to destroy the very fabric of America. Voter fraud. Get ready for these stories to be flying about again. In Arizona recently, there were 2 counties where voter turnout was as high as 434%. Now, that's not earth-shattering in either case. In tiny Puerto West precinct in Apache County, there were only 23 registered voters, but there were 100 votes cast. Now, you don't have to do the math here to know that something stinks. Did these people each vote 4 times? Or do we have non-registered people voting? Voter fraud is voter fraud, and everyone participating, whether it's by casting the vote or by knowingly letting somebody cast the vote. Participation in voter fraud should be an automatic 10 years in prison. In the Fort Defiance precinct, there are only 357 voters, but over 1,046 ballots were cast. How does this happen? It happened continually in precinct after precinct in Pennsylvania when Obama got elected. There were a half a dozen precincts where 100% out of the thousands in the precinct, 100% of them voted for Obama. Now, this is a factual impossibility. If you take 1,000 voters, even if they want to vote for Obama, a few of them will screw up. It happens all the time. It is mathematically impossible to get 1,000 people to vote without some of them making a mistake. And yet in precinct after precinct, any votes for Mitt Romney were not cast at all. They were either lost or cleared from the computer. Voter fraud is ruining America. We've got the Ebola breakout in Afghanistan, in Africa. It's getting worse. Hundreds and hundreds of cases now. We've had a few people be brought into America with it in a controlled situation. They were cured in a hospital, fortunately. But to prove how dangerous our borders are, an activist by the name, you probably know James O'Keefe. He's the one that broke the Acorn and broke the Planned Parenthood scandals in recent years. He actually filmed a character coming from Canada. He had a aerosol canister and a suspicious-looking brown backpack. He also had a little bag on him that was labeled ricin. And James O'Keefe filmed him as he crossed a lake up at the Canadian border, got on a boat, rode the boat across, stepped off the boat in Cleveland and right into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Nobody stopped him. No immigration officers were around. Nobody was there to check his bag and see what he had. So now we know we have a porous border, and I say border kind of tongue-in-cheek. Obama has actually pulled the Border Patrol 70 miles inland. So we're ceding the border for 1,000 miles. We're ceding the first 70 miles to the illegal aliens. They can come in as far as they want because the Border Patrol is 70 miles in. So if they want to come in and settle down in Phoenix, or if they want to settle down in San Diego or El Centro, yeah, no problem. No problem. But the border on the south is porous. We know the Al-Qaeda types are coming in. We found prayer rugs down along the border where they've left them as they crossed. Now we know that the northern border is just as porous. We're in for a world of hurt, people. We've got an election coming up in, about 45 days? I'll do a count while we're on break, but it's not far off. We need to get out there. Please stay with us. We've got another break, but we will be right back.
KCAA. Tom O'Halloran, holding the line against tyranny from Washington, D.C.
Welcome back. This is the Tuesday night edition of Patriot Radio, and I am your host, Tom O'Halloran. Coming up next, the hardcore stats on Obama as commander-in-chief. We know he's the absolute worst president ever, but how has he scored as commander-in-chief? He always talked about how bad George W. Bush was as a commander-in-chief, taking our boys to war. Irresponsibly, he said. Well, during the 8 years of Bush's watch in Afghanistan, we lost 630 soldiers in 8 years. Contrast that with the 5 years under Barack Obama, where he's lost 1,700 armed forces. Close to triple, and in fewer years. How about the wounded? 8 years under Bush, we had 2,731 soldiers wounded. In 3 years, 1/3 as many years, from January 2009 until September of 2012, 14,943 soldiers have been wounded under Obama's watch. That's 7 times as many in 1/3 as many years. There's still a couple more years that haven't been tallied up and registered to be factual yet. But that is 7 times as many wounded in 1/3 the number of years. Absolute failure of the commander-in-chief to protect and secure our soldiers. Now he's planning to train the Syrian rebels, and this is a bag of worms. He wants $500 million to be approved by Congress to train 5,000 rebels for a year. So that's essentially $100,000 per rebel. Now, how are we all of a sudden going to convince 5,000 rebels to stop fighting alongside ISIS and fight ISIS? We don't know who these people are. Some of the rebels are carrying the rebel nationalist flag. Some of them are carrying the Islamist flag of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. But oftentimes, even the ones carrying the nationalist flag join sides of the Islamists and fight certain battles with and for them. So now Obama's going to select which ones we can trust. Yeah, that's worked out real well for him in the past, isn't it? And we spent $20 billion trying to build a 280,000 person army in Iraq. And the first time they were tested, the very first time, they turned tail and ran. They turned over the entire arsenal to ISIS. And now we're going to spend another $500 million to train Syrian rebels that we don't know and give them more ammunition, more weapons that they can turn around and use to kill our men. Yeah, what's the worst that could happen, right? My 8-year-old grandson listens to this stuff and he says, what, are they stupid back there? You've got to absolutely be brain dead. Even John McCain was saying there are vast differences between the Syrian rebel fighters. It's a conglomerate of varying ideologies, social backgrounds, and loyalties. We don't know who the moderates are, and we can't assure that the weapons won't fall into the hands of the Islamists. Therefore, we should give them no weapons. If we have to fight, then we go in and fight. We're certainly not going to win a battle against 35,000 ISIS soldiers when they're heavily armed, and we're going to be dropping a few airstrikes. No battle has ever been won with airstrikes and no boots on the ground. Obama is a coward, a yellow-spined coward. He's afraid of having to give his Nobel Peace Prize back. He says it's just going to be an anti-terrorism task force. And then his Secretary of State says we're at war. And then Obama says, well, we're not at war, but it is war. They can't even get the words straight. All the late-night comedians are making fun of Obama now, and when they start making fun of you, you know you're a complete idiot. No boots on the ground. We've already got about 12 to 1,400 boots on the ground already. He's trying to say there won't be any combat boots, but we have boots on the ground. And they will be slipping more boots on the ground. They'll call them training troops or advisors, but they will be on the ground and they will have weapons and they will get shot at. So he's dicing words, as Clinton said. That depends upon what your meaning of is. Oh, mercy me. And now Obama, I think we talked about this last week briefly. Obama is going to use his pen and his phone. He's going to pass an executive order to legalize 3 million illegal aliens. 3 million illegal aliens. And he's going to sign a document that gives them amnesty. He says he can do it because Congress isn't doing their job. Excuse me? Congress's job isn't to do your bidding. They discussed it. They decided not to do it. The case is settled. Your job is not to make laws. Your job as president, as if you're the president's job is to sign the laws that Congress passes. The president does not make laws. And your so-called Congress not doing their job is merely Congress not doing what you want them to do. They are not your puppets. They are there to counterbalance your stupidity, your tyrantness. You're not a king. You don't have the power. You don't have the authority to just do what you want. And if Congress doesn't do it, you'll do it for them. Congress is elected to keep you in check. And it's high time they start doing so, or they will be replaced. many